for those POAP collectors out there, there's your QR code to claim the POAP for today's call. And if anybody has issues hearing or connecting in some way, we've got some great people helping us in the general channel. So please, you can text there and get your help for being able to join us today. So thanks very much. Welcome. My name's Josh. I wear a couple hats right now. I've been the Director of Engineering for centralized Shapeshift for many years now. And as of last Friday, the proposal passed that assigned me as the engineering workstream leader for the ShapeShift DAO. Oh, there's a problem with the POAP. Yep. Okay, we'll have to fix that. And Noah, if you're on, maybe you could generate another one and I can add it at the last slide for people to be able to scan.
Yeah, I'll just grab the link and I'll post it in general.
Perfect. Thanks. All right. So go to the general channel for the POAP. There you go. That's what I get for not testing the POAP before we put it up. Okay.
Yeah, we're at the max number of streamers, and I was going to screen share, but I can't get in because it's already at the max. So I posted a link to Zoom in the stage chat for anyone who wants to follow along. Could I also have a volunteer for somebody who is watching the stream to join that Zoom chat and share their screen?
Is there one of the engineers that is not presenting? Can you go up and join that Zoom link and share the screen for the presentation?
Yeah, I can do it.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So if you heard that, if you're in here and you can't see the screen share, where did you post that, Willie?
Stage chat. So the
Stage
stage chat channel is generally for any ongoing talks. So anyone, it only opens and closes during meetings like this. So please go ahead to that stage chat channel and you'll see the link.
And then you can see the on-share screen, the Zoom share, because we will be, there's some slides, and then we've got a couple people who will be sharing screens, walking through some of the code setup and doing some demos. So you definitely don't want to miss the screen share as well. All right. So, all right, what we're going to be talking about, the agenda for today is, first, I'm going to go through a few things, and then you're going to be able to hear from multiple of the DAO core dev team today. So I'm excited about that. I'll talk a little bit about the strategy and what we've been thinking in building this new V2 product and making it open source. And then Adam, our principal engineer, is going to talk about the benefits of the V2 architecture and also explain some of the limitations of the current architecture and why we made some of the decisions to create this new code repo. Then we'll be handing it off to a couple different engineers to walk through some of the different layers of the system. And then we'll have someone else come in, Major Hazel come in and talk about the contributing standards. And then I'll wrap it up with how people can get involved. And then in the interest of time, please save your questions till the end. We got some stuff we want to get through here, and I'm afraid that if we took questions as we went, people wouldn't see everything. So this way, people will be able to see the whole presentation, and then we're more than happy, hoping that there's lots of questions that we can engage in at the end. Okay, so as we were building this new V2 repository, this is kind of how we were thinking about it, is we wanted to move as quickly as reasonable, particularly through these first few steps, so that we could open stuff up, make this a real community effort, and have us as DAO core developers working in an open source repo, right? So we're really just right here, open sourcing these new repos that we've built, and we're moving as quick as we can to get some community code contributions. Then we're going to get this new repo to a production state and be able to tag a production release and get that running, and then match the features on that you see on beta.shapeshift.com. So think of beta.shapeshift.com as V1 and what we're going to present here today as V2, and then ultimately deprecate V1. So in an effort to move as quickly as we can through this, one of the repos that we're going to introduce you today is really young. It's only, we looked at the commit history as we were squashing the commits that we've done so far, and we created it on July 29th. So maybe about 5 weeks this repo's been under development. So I just want to emphasize that this is a work under development. You're even going to see in one of the demos, we're using some hard-coded values. So there's lots of work to be done, but we've really wanted to get this out so it's in the public view and as quick as we can to get public contributions. So in an effort of iterating quickly and moving through, we are opening it up to you in this in development state, and we're really excited about it. We think it's a super great dev environment and can't wait to show it to you. We don't recommend it for production use, and our processes for how you can contribute and get involved are also under development. So we're really looking for feedback as we go along. So thanks for coming here with us this morning. And with that, I'm gonna, before I hand it off to Adam, I just wanted to go through, there's been some questions and about what's available where. We have a couple different products that users can currently interact with us. That's beta.shapeshift.com, our mobile app, and our external page, which is really just for the airdrop claiming and LP and staking. And now we have the new V2 under development. And you can see that if you do the comparisons across here, that the V2 platform is not at feature parity. It's really has a ways to go, but we think we're going to get there a lot quicker with your help. Okay, and now I'm going to pass it off to Adam, our principal engineer, to talk about the current architecture and the new architecture.
Thanks, Josh. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Really glad to see the turnout today. As Josh mentioned, I'm Adam, principal engineer at centralized Shapeshift. I've had the pleasure of working here since early 2018, and I couldn't be more excited about our decision to open source and to pursue our decentralized future with all of you. As Josh mentioned, the initial repositories we're open sourcing are the humble beginnings of a decentralized Shapeshift platform. We plan to open source all of our existing repositories. However, particularly for the backend code that supports our current production platform, a thorough and lengthy security audit is required prior to doing so. So there's several other reasons for setting off in the direction we did. Probably most notably, as Josh touched on, is including all of you as soon as possible, as well as providing a streamlined developer experience. So as far as onboarding goes, we're not exactly in the greatest place to do that in our current centralized code base for various reasons, at least not at the scale we're hoping to. And with the decentralized direction we're heading in, the current platform has lots of basically obsolete code, things around authentication, user data, and centralized databases that we use to track our reward programs, like Foxback and Rainfall, if you're familiar with those. So we decided to focus our efforts on the future instead of unwinding and reshaping the past. Next slide, Please, Josh. Cool. So very, very high level. Surprise, surprise, we're roughly divided into front end and back end. So starting with the back end, we're very excited to announce our new chain agnostic backend that we've dubbed Unchained. Unchained provides a unified API across disparate blockchains. Cross-chain concerns are alleviated by independent vertical slice implementations for each chain. This also provides a great deal of flexibility to any given implementation and enables adding support for chains in isolation as long as they conform to the API spec. This is intended to be a very light backend, light meaning stateless, aside from blockchain state, obviously. It can be run by anyone. The thought is the DAO will likely incentivize operators. This removes the need for a centralized backend, gives our backend redundancy, and gives end users the ability to choose which backend they trust or even run the entire backend themselves. There's also potential for client-side load balancing, as well as integrity checking backends against each other. So the ETH implementation is open source as of now. Bitcoin and clones and Tendermint chains and the other chains we've supported, and hopefully other chains that the community wants to see, can be added quickly. So moving on to the front end, the client web box there has a number of subcomponents listed inside it. First one I'll touch on just really briefly is HD Wallet. Some of you may be familiar with that. We actually open sourced HD Wallet, I think, around 2 years ago now. It's a multi-wallet, multi-chain abstraction that enables support for KeepKey, Ledger, Trezor, Portis, and our native software wallet, which is the wallet in use in mobile, and if you use a native wallet on the web platform today. And it removes any bias or special case code that upstream client code would otherwise have the burden of dealing with. So in the Shapeshift org on GitHub, there's a lib repository, for lack of a better name at the moment, that contains shared code packages. This is not UI code. Probably the most notable at the moment is a package called Chain Adapters. Chain Adapters leverages the Unchained backend as well as HD Wallet, and in turn provides a complete chain agnostic blockchain interface for use in user interfaces. There's a couple of other packages we've introduced there so far. Asset Service is one, provides an abstraction around assets. Similarly, Market Service provides an abstraction around market data. So it gives us a kind of a clean way to use, say, CoinGecko, CoinCap, any other market and pricing data we might desire to in the future. With that, I'm going to pass the baton to senior engineer Kevin, who's going to talk more about Unchained.
Thanks, Adam, and hello, everyone. My name is Kevin. I've been with Shapeshift since the beginning of 2018 and have worked out building the Unchained backend. Just going to start out with a quick high-level overview of the Unchained architecture, diving into the different layers of those coin stacks, and then a demo of how easy it is to spin up a local dev environment using Docker Compose. So the picture that you could see now is the architecture diagram showing the discrete vertical coin stacks. Right now, we only do have ETH, as Adam mentioned, but the idea of these vertical coin stacks per blockchain is that they're going to be independently deployable, allow easy parallelization of development, and allow for unique solutions to indexing and ingestion layers, and ensure that things aren't too coupled together so that they could stay flexible and easily maintainable. Quick breakdown of the different layers, starting from the bottom, would be the node. So the node is the foundation in which all the blockchain infrastructure is built off of. This is the persistent state of data. In the case for Ethereum, we are using the Geth for our node. Above that is the indexer. So oftentimes it's not easy to get all information straight from the node or perform it. So we employ a solution like an indexer, which indexes all balance and transaction data associated with addresses and makes that quick and easy to access the applicable information. We are using Blockbook, which is an open source Golang project developed by Trezor. This is going to be used for Ethereum currently, and then Bitcoin and UTXO coins shortly thereafter. The layer above that is the API and ingester layer. So this is where the bulk of the logic exists in Unchained that we will be working on. The ingester layer serves a couple different purposes. One of which is allows a client to receive a stream of past transaction history. So a client can register with the ingester at a specific block, asking for all transaction history from that block moving forward. And then it will continue to push updates of newly confirmed and published transactions to give real-time updates to any front-end interface. The other purpose it serves is adding additional context that may be missing from the node or indexer. In the case of ETH specifically, this would be like internal transactions which aren't natively provided by Blockbook at this time, or different contract parsing and input data parsing for different DEX contracts or various new contracts appearing on chain. There is the MongoDB layer above that, which serves as like keeping track of process blocks to handle reorgs in orphan data, as well as at the time registered client data, which will be moving towards just a WebSocket interface, and we will not be storing that permanently when a client registers to get transaction updates. This is all done. The ingester is a RabbitMQ topology as well at this current time. So the API is TypeScript. We're using TSOA to generate an open API spec. As Adam was describing, this is a common interface to all things blockchain, where something like chain adapters can query this common interface and ultimately receive any data from the differing unique blockchain backends with that same interface. And that's where I'm going to start with the demo today, is basically spinning up the local environment and showing that common API deployed, up and running, and the Open API docs page. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. And hopefully whoever else is sharing can switch over to that. Cool. So this is the Shapeshift Unchained, now open source public repo. I'll go ahead and start with cloning the repository. We do have a README that we've been...
For anyone following along, I'm going to switch to Kevin's screen share if you want to follow what he's saying.
Okay, thanks, John. So yeah, we have the README built out. I'm just going to walk through this and spin up the local dev environment. Do have some helpful docs with some of the technology used. We do use Pulumi and Kubernetes for our production environment, and TSOA and Open API for this common API, as I was explaining. A little further breakdown of the project structure and coin stack components. And so without further ado, I will dive in here for the initial setup. So after you clone the repo, I'm using NVM to specify the correct node version. So NVM use, we'll set it to 14.16. And from there, we will go ahead and install dependencies and build the project. Alrighty, there, all that's done. Here is a reference of the exposed ports when you're developing locally. And for this case, we're going to use Docker Compose. It's a lightweight local development environment. This does assume that you have already installed it. I do have it on my machine. So I'll go ahead and copy the sample env to a local.env file. All the examples here are for the Ethereum coin stack, which is the only one that we have supported right now. But as we get more, obviously just change that for the coin stack you wish to spin up. To take a look at that really quick, this is the env file. Right now, the only additional secret that you need to fill out is an Etherscan API key. You can get a free one through Etherscan just by creating an account. This is the one external dependency we have right now that's handling the internal transactions at this time. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that over off screen here really quick. That is now in place. And the next step is spinning up the Docker Compose. We are using a coin stack environment variable to just specify which coin stack you want to run.
And so with 12 hydras,
And
going up against
Docker Compose up.
Lanes, taking some out, but losing some hydras. Backs up a little more. He wants to get that separation from the.
So this is spinning up a watcher service that does all the hot reloading for us. The dependencies like RabbitMQ and Mongo. Here we could see the RabbitMQ topology being deployed. We do use Dockerize to wait for all the external services to come up and ready. Here we could see the ingester now syncing blocks in the background. And we should have the API running here. This is showing the container port. Again, it is exposed externally at 31300. So I will go there now, localhost 31300. And here are the OpenAPI docs. So this is a nice page. If anyone hasn't used these before, it shows a rundown of all the available endpoints, the response payloads, different type of requests or response codes that can be returned, and some examples. So just to show you this working really quick, we'll try out the balance endpoint, execute that request, and we could see we got our 200 back with this address's balance information. You could see so many transactions and token balances. This is the same API as is exposed on the public endpoint that everyone can visit here. So this is the same docs, and it is also linked at the repo here on the links. So that is all I had to show today, and really excited to work with the community. Thank you. Up next will be Theo explaining chain adapters.
And you can switch, this is Josh, you can switch to my screen share now as Theo starts his part of the presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Hi, everybody. I'm Theo. I'm a senior engineer at ShapeShift, and I plan on continuing to work with the ShapeShift DAO. So I hope to interact with some of you aspiring DAO developers. I'm going to introduce you all to a library we have called Chain Adapters. This is an NPM package we're publishing, and we pull in as a dependency for a client-side web app. Chain adapters is a front-end abstraction layer that utilizes the Unchained backend so you can communicate with different blockchain nodes in a common front-end interface. The high-level idea behind chain adapters is that blockchains can have very different schemes for sending transactions, address validations, etc. So for example, a UTXO coin like Bitcoin or Dogecoin, those transactions have inputs and outputs. They might have script types or OP return data. However, none of that really makes sense on an Ethereum blockchain. And conversely, Ethereum transactions, they contain a nonce because the address doesn't change. They can send data representing decentralized trading, adding liquidity, etc. None of those things are really relatable to a UTXO chain. That being said, regardless of the inner workings of a blockchain, many high-level concepts are used across chains. These are things like getting an address, getting a balance, sending a transaction. And these are differences where logic can be abstracted out of the UI UX layer and into chain adapters. And that's where we bring this library in. It can massage the data from the UI and adapt to a specific chain and send that data off to Unchained backend to be recorded onto the blockchain. So I'm going to share my screen here and show you a little bit of the code that we have with chain adapters and how you can get started with it. I'll give you guys a second to switch over to my screen share. And so
That's Theobald Fraser for anyone following along.
Mm-hmm. And so this here is our chain adapter interface. Right now, on the open source project, we only have the Ethereum chain adapter, but this is going to be extended to other blockchains that anybody can really use that we'll be using in our web app. These functions are chain agnostic, get balance, get transaction history. Doesn't matter which chain, you're going to be utilizing those methods when interacting with that chain. Over here, we have a sample environment variables. What I'm going to be doing is reaching out to the api.ethereum.shapeshift.com that Kevin had just shown you guys and interacting with that. I have a wallet loaded. This is not the mnemonic that I have loaded. I have one that has history on it so that we can get some useful data back. Here is a test module, and what this does is it reaches out and grabs a chain adapter and just makes some calls, whether it be to HD Wallet or Unchained, to get some information that we need when we're sending transactions. When I run this module, what I'm going to do here is, using my mnemonic, I'm going to initialize an HD Wallet, and with that wallet, I'll get an address, and then I'll make a query to get a balance from Unchained. So as you can see, HD Wallet then takes my mnemonic and runs it through and gives me back an Ethereum address. I then take that address and I query Unchained for a balance. And you can see that this address has some activity on it. Got about 0.02 ETH. So this number is in Way. Has about 111 transactions on it and some ERC20 token balances there. If we want to further go through here, we can create an unsigned transaction, sign that transaction. So the unsigned transaction is built using the chain adapter. We sign that transaction with HD Wallet, and we can even broadcast that transaction by sending it off to Unchained, and Unchained will put it onto the blockchain. Here, this is my address. I'm just going to send one way to myself plus fees, and let's run that through. And so here you can see we have a signed transaction back from HD Wallet. Here we have the unsigned transaction. So this is the information that HD Wallet expects. And then HD Wallet contains your private keys, which is all client side, and uses that to sign the transaction. We get the raw data here. And using Unchained, we broadcasted that transaction and got back a transaction ID. So if I go over to Etherscan, plug that in, we should see that I just sent one way to myself, paid some fees, and there it is on the blockchain. And that's really all I had left for chain adapters. So I'm going to pass it on to DeFi Cafe, who will explain our web interface.
And then you can focus back to my screen share. This is Josh F. as DeFi starts his part of the presentation.
Thank you, Josh, and GM to everyone, no matter where you are in the world. I go by DeFi Cafe. I've only been with Shapeshift this year, but I'm one of the engineering managers for the platform team here. So as Josh mentioned at the beginning of the call, we've been feverishly working away at a new web repo over the last 4 weeks or so. And as Adam explained, in this new architecture, in the spirit of decentralization, there's as little back-end infra running as possible. So a lot more happens in the browser now. So the client or the web application depends on a few things. The first thing it depends on is HD Wallet. This has been open source for a long time and will remain so. I'm just going to share my screen now so I can talk you through this stuff. I'll just give everyone a couple of seconds to switch over to my stream now. So as we can see here, at github.com/shapeshift shows all of our open source repos. So we have HD Wallet, Unchained, which Kevin just spoke about, Web, which is the new one I'm about to run through, Lib. So Web keeps all of our view layer stuff. This is built from Create React app. It's very easy to use. Lib is the abstraction of all of the things like chain adapters, our new market data service, our asset service. We've also got the Fox ERC20 and the airdrop stuff. So as we mentioned, HD Wallet has been open source for some time. If we go into the packages directory, we can see the wallets that we currently support. Namely, HD Wallet Native is our software wallet. This is the wallet that's currently used for beta.shapeshift.com and for the mobile app. So a pure software-based wallet. We've also got KeepKey, which is obviously our hardware product. Software wallet as well, Portis, which we own. We also support the other popular hardware wallets, Ledger and Trezor. So this is open source. Anyone's welcome to come along and add an adapter for another wallet as they want. We also have the Unchained repo that Kevin spoke about earlier. I just want to touch on Lib. So this is our shared packages services that gets consumed by the new web repo on the front end. Very, very simple stuff to get started. Simply clone it and run the build. And this is our Shapeshift web repo. So linking out to a bunch of docs that Major Hayes will explain later. But very similarly, the intention here is for things to be incredibly easy to dev on. So I'm not as cool as Kevin. I'm not going to clone them live, but I will prove that we are running from the open source stuff, running clean from the original commit. And yes, Satoshi is alive and works with us at Shapeshift. We can also prove with a Git pull. Same deal with Lib. We're running locally. We're up to date. No sneaky changes. The only thing that we do to run locally is just yarn link stuff so that we can use the current version, because it's pretty frequently you have to work on Lib and web at the same time. So we have a little script for that to show link packages. So I've already got the Lib sim linked up. We've got everything installed already. The build runs super quick for the Lib stuff. Similarly, I can show that everything is installed on web already. I'm not going to run the build here because we don't need to, but it's as simple as running yarn dev. And we will wait a couple of seconds for it to compile and the front end will come up. So while we're waiting for that to come up, I just want to explain what this is and what this isn't. So going back to what Adam said at the beginning of the call, this isn't the Shapeshift that's currently running that you know and love. This is, however, it's self-custody, it's decentralized, it's open source, and it's very easy to dev on, and it's the culmination of many, many years of knowledge and lessons of how we would like to do this properly. And with the DAO, we now get a chance to do this properly. So the main focus here is a framework that's easy to develop on, that's well architected, that people can come and contribute to, rather than a verbatim open sourcing of our centralized code. And you have to trust us when we say you don't want to work on it. So here it is, the new front end. It's all a lot of this is stubbed out at the moment, so things are hard coded. Portfolio balance, you probably recognize this as the Bitcoin chart. Stubbed out recent transactions and things like that. We can connect our native wallet though. So unlike beta.shapeshift.com, this doesn't use our centralized auth. This is all in your browser. As of today, we currently only support the Shapeshift native software wallet. But you can go ahead and create or import a wallet. So pick a secure password. In the spirit of self-custody, the security of your funds is up to you. I'm just going to go ahead and import a wallet. I'm going to pull this off screen so I can do that.
And you're just pasting in the 12-phrase mnemonic of a wallet that you have.
Yep, that's all I did. So paste it in. Wallet is connected. We are talking to, I'm also running Unchained locally. I didn't go through the whole setup flow as Kevin demonstrated, but that is running locally. And we will be able to fetch our balances from that. Everything is pretty stubbed out at the moment. So if we refresh the page as well, the wallet is stored locally in your browser. You just simply enter your password and you're able to unlock your wallet. What we do have implemented is the assets list already. So we're pulling a lot of this data from public sources like CoinGecko. So we can pick an asset like wrapped Ethereum. We have some stuff working, charts, descriptions. We've stubbed out a lot of the stuff that's going to exist soon, trading, sending, receiving, things like that. Some parts of the app are completely not started on, but like we said, this is a framework that's well architected, easy to work on, and hopefully easy to contribute to. So I hope that's pretty exciting for everyone. I'm going to hand it over to Major Hayes now, and he's going to walk us through the documentation contributing side of things that we've set up, all of the non-code stuff, basically.
Thanks, DeFi. We're going to be switching back to Josh's stream now to look at the slides. So we're pretty excited to open source these projects, especially because it gives an opportunity to the community to participate and not rely solely on just us developers and product people to figure out what to do. And we're hoping that we can get a lot of submissions for bug fixes or new features or other things that we have on our roadmap. We want to make it really easy for all of you guys to contribute, but we also know that you're going to have a lot of questions about it. In fact, we have a lot of questions about it. We've been talking pretty in depth over the last few weeks about these processes. So we have set up a documentation site. The link is there at the bottom of the slide, shapeshiftdao.gitbook.io. The site is currently mostly empty because most of our documentation efforts we've been working on are still in unpublished drafts. So they haven't been published, but they will be published soon. In the meantime, there is a lot of documentation available in the individual repositories, as you saw in the previous demonstrations. In this documentation site, we will be outlining the process and the requirements for contributions. And there are several ways that you as developers can contribute to these open source projects. The documentation site will describe in detail the process of how to do this. And I'm going to talk about a couple of the ways in which that you can participate. So the first thing is bounties. In the engineering work stream, we will be posting bounties for projects that are on our own roadmap things that we're looking for help with, since we only have a limited number of core maintainers. And so some of those bounties may have some compensation associated with them. The next thing that you can participate in is features. We know that, we don't have every idea, and we're hoping that the community will have good ideas for things to add into the projects that we've just shown you. And there will be a process for submitting proposals to add new features. And then lastly is just bugs, internationalization, minor changes, things like that. We welcome pull requests for anything like that. There's not going to be a big formal process for those types of things. So we encourage you to participate in those small ways, especially here at the beginning. When it comes to pull requests, we hope to have a lot of contributions from people. And unfortunately, that means we expect that us as core maintainers just are not going to have the time to manually test and quality check all the pull requests that come in. So we will expect pull requests to use the best practices and the patterns that we've established in the repository. Those things will be documented in each repository. And we'll also expect your pull request to include automated tests to validate the code, because we do want to maintain a high quality and stable code base. And the full process on how to submit your pull request and more importantly, how to get it approved and merged will be documented on that site coming soon. There's also a link on here to the GitHub organization. Documentation for the process that I just talked about will be included in the docs repo that's open in there. The other three main repositories we talked about, Web, Lib, and Unchained, will also have some repository-specific documentation that you can look at. And the Gitbook site, as we build it out, will link out to all of those projects. So it will be kind of a one-stop shop as we get it built out. We're still working on the documentation, as I said earlier. Still a lot of it's in drafts. We haven't consolidated it all out of the different repos. But in the meantime, while we're working on all of that, we do encourage you to come in and join us in Discord, ask your questions, and we'll make sure that questions you ask will get answered in those docs. And of course, as we build them out, we will welcome contributions in the form of pull requests to the docs repo and other things, so that we can make sure that everybody has a smooth onboarding process and that we can get everybody contributing to what I hope will be the best crypto platform available. Thank you, and I'll be passing it back to Josh.
All right. Thanks, Major Hayes, and thank you, Adam, for the architecture overview, Kevin for walking us through Unchained, Theo for the walkthrough of chain adapters, and James for web. Really appreciate that introduction. So specifically for those, the community developers out there, how can you get involved? First, we're looking for some people to volunteer for some individual onboarding with people from the core developer team. I've started 2 threads in the dev chat channel in Discord asking people to volunteer. So please post in that thread, one for Unchained and one for web, if you'd like us to consider you to reach out. We'll want to do a smaller group to begin with, refine our documentation, and then keep going from there. So we'd love to have some people who are interested in working with us more closely with that. We talked about a couple different things, particularly Major Hayes just reviewed a couple different things. All of those things, the way to start is in Discord, and particularly in the dev chat channel. If you've got any ideas, if you think you found a bug and you want to fix it and make a PR for it, if you want to discuss an idea, the dev chat is a great place to start, and we will shepherd you from there into the other channels and ways that, for example, proposals move forward. And when we have some more solidity around the bounty process, we'll be reaching out about that too. couple other ways that you can stay involved, whether you want to dev in the code base or not, is we are making our engineering weekly kickoffs are now the workstream weekly kickoff, and they will be public. We'll be doing those Mondays at 11:30 a.m. Mountain Time. That is going to be for in the beginning, as we open things up more and more. In the beginning, we will have the core dev team speaking during those, and we're inviting anyone to listen in. I think we'll see how it goes, and if and when we get to the point that we make it completely open to the public and for anyone to talk. But for now, we're moving into this one step at a time. And then the other way that people can continue to be involved is the first and third Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. Mountain. That's when this call started. Today is the first Wednesday of September. Happy September, everybody. In the general voice channel, we will be doing our demos. We've had a culture of internal demos inside Shapeshift Engineering. Now we want to not only open those, so for that's not just open up and come see what we're going to demo, but we would like to open this up to the public. And if anyone has anything that you would like to demo, if you've been working on something locally or however that goes, doesn't have to be a merged PR. It can absolutely be a work in progress. I will be posting in dev chat a couple days beforehand to find out who's interested in demoing those demos on the first and third Wednesday of every month. Last, just look for more to come. We've all mentioned, we're really at the beginning here. Lots of stuff under development. We'll be releasing and talking about more things every week. So just please keep paying attention in these Discord channels. Come to the kickoffs and the demos and ask questions. And we really look forward to getting you more and more involved. So thank you very much for coming this morning. We still got some time, so I'd love to open it up for questions now. I think this link is not working, so make sure you go to the stage chat, I think it is, for the POAP. But any questions from anyone, please? And we would take questions of any kind. They can be as technical or untechnical as you want them to be.
Be shy.
Yeah, everybody jumping at once.
I see some unmuting, but no voices.
Yeah, I see that too. Can people, if anyone's having a problem speaking, yeah, post in the general channel if you, for some reason, you're not being heard, please. Yes.
So the question that came to mind during the presentation is that everything you guys are doing seems to be with running the software seems to be in Linux. So what about us poor Windows saps?
So I'm running on Mac, and most of us run on Mac, but it's all cross-platform. Like wherever npm and yarn work, it'll be fine. So yeah, it won't be a drama at all. Like I know Docker sometimes has some issues on Windows, but I don't think it'll be an issue. Maybe Kevin can speak to that for Unchained.
Yeah, thinking similarly, I haven't onboarded anybody through Windows yet, but since it's all containerized and get Docker up and running, should be good to go. Otherwise, that'll be a good problem to have and figure out a solution to, so everyone can be involved.
I mean, yes, you could run all these things from Windows, but there are additional steps involved, and so
Yeah.
what I'm wondering is if the documentation will include those extra steps. That's all.
Totally. And if you are interested in onboarding to Unchained, those are the kind of things with the one-on-one kind of onboarding that we'd love to fill out that documentation more to include all all the edge cases in all platforms.
So
Okay.
WSL is very stable on Windows now, which, it makes it look and feel like Linux. So it should be fairly low friction.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, would love to see you if you work with any of the devs and get it working and you found a hiccup that you overcame. Would love to see a PR to the documentation to improve it. That would be fantastic.
And remember that Windows subsystem for Linux is a thing. I do a lot of dev work on Windows, and I find that the most natural environment.
I think someone's speaking, but I hear it's a very, very low. Did anybody hear what was just said?
Yeah, Reed was answering a question about Windows, but he was very quiet.
Okay.
Okay, how about that?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I do a lot of dev work on Windows, and remember, Windows subsystem for Linux is a thing, and I find it to be the most natural dev environment for a lot of this sort of stuff. It's seamless with all the type of stuff that we're using in these repos.
All right, thanks for the question there, Seth. I see we do have a couple volunteers, which is awesome. Thank you for that. If anyone else is interested, please pipe up in those dev chat threads. Anyone else have questions for us?
Question posted in the stage chat from Zoom chat user Bonsai Fox, and it asked, what are the plans for the mobile app?
That's a good question. So currently, right now, we haven't thought much about the V2 for the mobile app. Right now, we needed to take one step at a time and build this very thin back end and work on the V2 for the web app. So that's what I could tell you. Adam, I don't know if you have any other thing that you want to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, we absolutely have intention of continuing mobile app in our decentralized future. For simplicity, we started with web. The intent is both the back end, so Unchained, as well as our client side libraries, and some shared React components will be usable in both interfaces. So it's definitely not forgotten. It's a matter of time and priorities and picking a path that gets us off the ground and all of you involved quickly.
One thing to note.
Willie's getting Zoom echo.
That was Willie with, I think some Zoom Discord echo.
Okay, cool. One thing to note also is that there's some effort already in progress to add Wallet Connect support to mobile, as well as add Wallet Connect to this new open source web app. So mobile users will be able to use their native wallet, their mobile wallet, to on the new web app. So just wanted to mention that. Still, I think, like Adam and Josh mentioned, there's still plans to continue providing a mobile app to users. And we still need to figure out exactly the best way to do that in this new open source decentralized world.
Yeah, I think it's also important that we're going to continue to support the existing mobile app, right? There's for sure we will continue to until a more decentralized mobile app version exists. So we get a lot of good compliments, and it's provided a lot of value as it is.
Hey, I think
Chris, we heard you for a minute. You were pretty fuzzy.
How about now?
There you go.
Okay, right on. Still figuring out this Discord UI. I got a few questions for you guys. One is, have you guys had discussions about sort of spanning the spectrum between full-time and part-time? I know there's been discussion of bounties, but so like I have my own thing going on, but I'd love to participate like say 10 to 20 hours a week. Do you guys have any idea on how that would fit into this workflow that you've been presenting?
I could tell you that I think there's definitely possibilities there. We haven't thought. I don't have anything specifically, or we haven't got to the point of, hey, if there's people from the community that want to contribute on some regular basis like that, how exactly is that going to work? We don't know, but I would say that to get you into the code base and do some of the project defined work first, contributing, I think that's a great step towards building a relationship, and then we'll take it from there, and maybe you're the first person that we define exactly how that works with. Maybe there's a couple people that become interested in that in the next couple weeks and show the capability and the desire for it. So let's keep talking is what I would say right now.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, thank you. I look forward to exploring that. I had a couple technical questions. Kevin showed a URL briefly that I think it was a publicly exposed version of that Swagger UI, but I wasn't able to write down the URL for that. Did I see what I thought I saw? And can you guys drop the link in one of the chat rooms, if so?
Yes, I will go ahead and drop the link, and it's also linked on the repository in the About section if you wanted to take a look there, but I will drop the link in maybe dev chat.
Yeah, it's a good place for it.
That's perfect. Last question. I was curious about rate limits. It looked like you have sort of a thin web client, but that eventually has to talks to the Unchained. And I was wondering if you guys could just expand a little bit more on. You'd mentioned that you were hoping to see more decentralized backends, like redundant backends. Can you guys just sort of expand on that? Like, is it hoping that other people will set up their own backends that the web front end can talk to? And also, I was just curious about if there's been any thought on rate limits. I've managed APIs for blockchain access for a while, and that this is something that I've struggled with is rate limits and abuse, and sort of that fine line between providing availability and open access, but mitigating abuse.
Adam, you want to take that one?
So I'm gonna embarrassingly admit that I was typing in dev chat and missed the question there. Can it be restated?
Yeah, that'll give me an opportunity to clarify it. So I guess I have to. So my background, I used to run the blockchain REST API access for Bitcoin.com, and then for the last couple of years, I've run fullstack.cash, which is the same. It's just a REST API interface for talking to the Bitcoin Cash blockchain and the different indexers. So very similar to the Unchained architecture. And one of the things that I've struggled with is abuse of basically so many people trying to access the API that it essentially DOSes it and prevents access from other users. And I'm just wondering if there's any sort of plan in place in terms of setting rate limits and just preventing, basically ensuring fair share access to the APIs. And also maybe part of that explanation is I'd heard mentioned during the presentation that there was a plan to sort of decentralize it and have multiple backends, but I didn't really hear any details on that.
Yep. So absolutely very valid points. So both through popularity or maliciousness, you can end up with what basically looks like a DDoS attack, and that disrupts service for everyone, and no one has a great time. So we do have rate limiting capabilities on a couple of levels today. What you mentioned about multiple backends, anyone being able to run one is, you did hear right. My hope would be that will alleviate the load or help scale the application to a degree on its own. Yeah, more complicated or more complex rate limiting or other strategies to deal with performance at scale will absolutely be on our near term radar.
That's great, man. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, let's continue this discussion offline because this is an area that I've spent a lot of time studying. So yeah, I'd love to work with you and just come up with a plan there.
Cool. Yeah, me as well. Mostly out of necessity. It seems crypto is popular, Shapeshift's well known. We've dealt with both deliberate and accidental attacks more frequently than I would have liked to over the past couple of years. Thank you. Great question.
So I have a question about how the work stream will be organized. So because this is, the work stream that actually makes the product, I imagine it's likely to be the biggest. So the question that I have is, how are we going to sort of organize all the people coming into this? In particular, some programmers like to work with other people, work as part of a team, and others are more lone wolves. I'm curious how the work stream could sort of keep both camps happy.
Yeah, it's a good question and one that I think about a lot. So the first thing we did is we got a proposal passed to create the work stream. The very next step is that that's not true, not all. Most of the core developers, we end our employment with centralized Shapeshift on October 31st. So I will be putting together a proposal very shortly to be able to fund a full-time core developer maintainer staff. And while I'm doing that, today marks the day that we're really trying to build the community and be able to have bounty work and just general community contributions, because that's really the way that we see that we're going to be able to be the most competitive in the space and build the best product and have the most fun. So how we're going to keep that community engagement going with, as you said, so many different types of developers, we're going to have to in some ways make it up as we go, right? Like find out, like Chris talks about the ability, hey, I think, I'd really like to explore that. Well, as people kind of come up with, this is a little bit of create what you want out of this, right? That you come in and just start contributing, figure out how to contribute in your way, start conversations in dev chat. And as that builds, as if it continues to make sense and things are working well, let's figure out how to do this together. So I don't have specific, hey, here's this path for this kind of developer. Here's this path for this kind of developer, right? But I'm really excited, and we're all excited to figure this out with everybody. So if you have specific ideas, would love to hear those. We have these weekly kickoff calls and the demos. I think another thing that we're going to need here pretty soon is like a engineering workstream governance call of some kind that's open forum to just talk about this question, how the workstream is organizing itself. I don't have that scheduled or set up, but I mean, even you just making that comment raises it a notch in my priority.
Right. Well, I imagine that, there's going to be a lot of chaos in the next few months.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part about this particular work stream is going to be just getting it off the ground and, you know, paying that initial cost of training people into using your software, and you know,
Yeah.
while maintaining your, as you said, your core values. You know, because we have to learn how to set it up, make changes, test, quality assurance. Like so it's okay with me that you don't have an answer right now because there's way too much unknown. You know, so I'm just happy to have the conversation and sort of, as you said, having a weekly, you know, meeting just for this work stream, I think would be very helpful
Yeah.
to helping to address any concerns that we have. So thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate the question and engaging in that. Yeah, so well, let's. I think we just need to. I'll just need to set that up so we can keep talking about it. We do also have the Shapeshift Foundation is a separate organization that's starting up to be able to support the Shapeshift DAO becoming fully decentralized, and we do have an open position for someone who comes in with a lot of open source community experience in building open source communities. So I'm sure when that person gets here, we're currently interviewing for that role, we'll see some more things happening. But it's not something like we want to start building it now. Thanks everyone for the questions so far. I know we're running over. I know that the core team here can stick around for a bit more. Is there maybe time for one last question?
Hi, I had a question where you guys stand on decentralized exchange. I was actually hoping you'd talk about it in this talk today, but it seems like you were mostly focusing on the wallet services. So is this something that you expect to build out in the near future? Are we going to see another talk on something like that?
Yeah, for sure. If I go back to this table here, right? If you look at the trade column, currently, I mean, we are, first of all, huge fans of decentralized exchanges. We think that we completely took out our minimally centralized exchange that we ran for so long, our minimal custodial exchange that we ran for so long, which was centralized. But we have 0x and ThorChain on beta.shapeshift.com and on mobile. It's not in the platform V2, right? If you saw James's demo, it went through kind of quickly, but there was a trade screen over on the right. So we have the UI built. We have a lot of the back-end calls for both 0x and ThorChain because they're running on these two other systems. So the libraries are built out for it. So it's not going to be a huge lift to get those decentralized exchanges, and then hopefully more. And the idea is that with the V2 code base, with how much easier it is to add into and work on, that we'll be able to add more sooner, and not just trade, but a lot of staking protocol support that we want to include. All kinds of DeFi interface that become much easier with the V2 code base. So it's absolutely very much on our minds. Does that answer the question, or do you have a further question?
I think partially, because I'm more curious how you plan to build for non-ERC20 coins, like something that requires an atomic swap. Is that something that you guys are going to be building, or are you going to mostly lean on protocol developers to make sure those tools are available to you?
So that's a good question too. So a proposal recently passed for Osmosis and the Gravity DEX. So that's something that's currently, we're looking at. I actually haven't looked at much about where that proposal is right now, but going beyond Ethereum and ERC20, 100%. We think that's the huge value add that we have, particularly with Unchained and the chain adapters library, the multi-chain, multi-wallet, right? That's our vision that we think is what gives us the unique edge So yes, we're thinking of those things now. Atomic swaps specifically in exactly what way or what frame you're talking about there is not, I don't know of anything currently active discussion, but happy to have people start it.
All right, I think
Yeah,
that
I would
answers my
ask, is
question.
there a specific example that you have there where you mentioned atomic swaps?
Was there, yeah, Adam, you were asking if you had a specific example, yeah? Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. I was just
So-
going to say, you touched, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of missed that. There was some noise in the background, but yeah, I was mostly interested in the Bitcoin flavor. People have been talking about atomic swaps on Bitcoin chains for a long time, so I wanted to know where you guys stand on that.
I mean, I'll kind of jump in here and just say that at least at Shapeshift, over the last number of months, we've kind of come to the conclusion that something like the Thorchain model is a better way than atomic swaps. Basically, that AMMs and the liquidity pool model is generally better than atomic swaps. That doesn't mean that there couldn't be a good route on atomic swaps, but for now, I think Thorchain solves that problem better, personally.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'd certainly be open to implementing that. Atomic swap support on, pick your chain or chains. It's just going to be a matter of, priorities and community support for any given proposals.
I do think that atomic swaps, well, they are a cool concept. Yeah, I agree with John that automated market makers like Thorchain and Osmosis's approach seem to be proving to be a much more effective way to swap assets across chains. So I would personally be really skeptical of any atomic swap proposal. But yeah, it's up to the community.
And then let's just take this one last question that's in the dev chat channel from Good Faith, who can't get his mic to work around. He's asking about, I think, supporting, it's in a couple different places, custom transactions with DeFi applications. How do you plan on managing that? And if you all knew how Thorchain handled that? Oh, it's answered. I'm sorry. Looks like it's answered up above somewhere else. Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. A lot of HD Wallet itself is very powerful, and it does demonstrate a lot more than what the web is currently demonstrating. For specifically how to do Thorchain swaps and other smart contracts, I recommend taking a look at the integration tests in HD Wallet. It can really demonstrate how web works under the hood.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Matt. Everyone, thanks so much for joining us this morning or this afternoon, or evening, or whatever time zone you came from. Really appreciate you being here. I look forward to continuing the conversation in dev chat, and I'll be posting some of the details about the other meetings, the weekly Mondays and the first and third Wednesday demos. And always feel free to ask in dev chat if you want some clarity on any of this. I look forward to seeing you around Discord, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. You the man.
Thanks, everyone.
Woohoo!